I'm Jessica Otto with Florida Kids Therapy Services, and I have the honor of having Alicia Burnett join us today. Alicia is a phenomenal SLP. She is so knowledgeable about social skills and therapy. It's been amazing to get to learn from her all these years. She actually has worked with me for over 15 years now, which is amazing, and I am so thankful. So, Alicia, can you share with us how you look at a kid and what you look for when you're looking at a child in regards to social skills, or a teenager or a young adult?
Sure, sure. And this is my favorite kind of therapy to do because these kids, these students are way smarter than me, but they trip over the obvious. And I'm always amazed. And I'll point out to them, you're way smarter than me. They'll tell me you're too dumb to learn the rules to chess, and I'll say you're absolutely right. But then I'll share things about them. So, for example, this is the kind of kid if I have on, like, let's say, a Florida State shirt. It would never occur to them that maybe I went to Florida State or I like their football team or any kind of connection. It's just like it is what it is. Or these are the kinds of kids I'll say, so who's your little sister's best friend? And they'll say, I don't know. Never mind the fact that this little girl across the street seems to be over their house a lot. And you can say, like, well, maybe they don't care, because let's face it, a lot of teenage boys don't really care. But I think there's more to that they just don't know to pay attention to that's important. And the thing is, the reason we go here is that really our goal as parents is for our kids to have friends. And that's what their goal is too, to have friends, but they kind of have a hard time with that. And when we look at the schools, this inability to pick up on things when they're reading like factual stuff or literature, that they're not making these connections because the author can't spell it all out. But I'm looking more at the social stuff. So, for example, I'll give you examples of things that have happened in the clinic. So one time I interviewed a boy, a teenager, and I put something silly like that on his chair. Okay, it's funny because today's April Fool's. And so when he came, he went to sit down. He saw that, looked at it, walked over to the trash, and threw it away. It didn't occur to him to think like, well, what the heck? This is weird. Why would that be on my thing? And that was the end of story. Whereas you would hope that he'd say like, what the heck? Even if he's mad, like, why would you put that there? And then you have a conversation about, oh, that's silly. So it's things like that. So the way I some of the ways I'll deal with that is I'll show pictures. And this is, again, inference making. So first thing we're trying to figure out, so like, where is this? What's going on? It's a movie theater. And I'll be like, well, so, what do you think they're thinking? What do you think, and we'll pick up on the fact that this guy's mad. So what's their role? Like, what do you think his job is? Or what's her deal? What is she doing? And just getting at the fact that he's obviously mad. She's doing something bad. You're not supposed to talk on the thing. But you have to kind of guide them through that because it's not necessarily obvious to them. I might show them a picture like this, and the emotions are very strong, right? So I've had kids that they fail to see the relationships. Like you and I know that that's the parents, the siblings are having a fight, and sometimes they'll just kind of think it's a random thing, or they won't pick up on the body language that the one is that they're very angry at each other, and the mom doesn't want to hear it. So it's things like that seem so obvious to us that they just don't get. Here's another thing I might show them. And again, these are very natural social situations, right? The pizza delivery. So I might say like, oh wow, what's going on? Explaining what's going on. And then with the speech bubbles, I might say like, man, I wonder what she's saying, or I wonder what she's saying. And then we'll look at the emotion. Does she look happy or mad? She's happy. So I wonder what kinds of things she's saying. And then I'm maybe suggesting things like maybe she's saying something like, oh man, that came so fast. I'm so glad. And then I might say, like, what if she has a mad face? What do you think she might be thinking? What's going on there? And I might have to suggest stuff because they're not making those connections. So, like, maybe the pizza is cold, or maybe it took forever for them to come, things like that they're not necessarily picking up on references like that. I will do a lot with, I'm sorry, go on, Jessica.
I was just going to say, how do you cue a child when you have like the picture of the women that are talking to each other? How do you cue the child not to give them the answer, but help them understand the social situation and how to make a guess, even if they are struggling of like, I don't know why two women would talk to each other. They can't even get to that point.
Yeah. So I play dumb a lot. Gee, I wonder, or that's weird, or that kind of thing. So with this isn't so exciting because but if let's say I go back to this guy, and again, sometimes it's just establishing the role that this guy's in charge. So I'll say things like, that's weird that his arms are crossed. I wonder how he's thinking. I wonder if he's happy about something or mad, and I wonder. And then what's her deal? What is she even doing? And where is she again? She's in the movie theater. Wow, I wonder if that's a good idea. So I'll kind of throw out things like that. No, you know what? You're not supposed to be doing that. You know, what are some other things you're not supposed to be doing in the theater? Oh, yeah, yeah. So I bet, and I wonder how that makes him feel when she's breaking that rule. Yeah, he's probably pretty mad. Yeah. What else how else do we know that maybe he's not happy with this? That kind of thing, just really drilling those emotions and the situation, the location, what's going on, what are the rules, what are we supposed to do, what aren't we supposed to do. I have another picture that I don't seem to have, and it's siblings, and they're sitting at a kitchen table, and the little girl is writing, and she looks very annoyed, and the little boy has a pencil in his hand, and he's got this devilish grin. So first off, so I wonder how these guys go together, because they don't necessarily see relationships with people. They're just random people. Well, they're probably siblings. And you know what's going on is the kid's been poking her, with the pencil, and she's getting really angry. So it's that kind of thing. This was actually the picture that I was talking about. You can see that. It's kind of like, but the first thing we're doing is we're making the inferences. What's going on? They have to kind of buy into it. And from the picture,
Mhm.
they have to be able to figure out what the problem is, right? So again, where are they? They're probably in a house. If they're in the house, they're probably siblings, right? They don't necessarily, I've had kids think that they're in a classroom setting and they're just students. So you're trying to figure out what the thing is. And then again, you're really looking at those faces. I wonder what she's thinking. I wonder if she's happy about this. When you look, she looks really miffed. And then look about, what about him? What do you think's going on? Man, I wonder if she feels like he's really bugging her. I wonder if he can be a little brat sometimes with her. So you're just kind of you're asking about that. I'm wondering, but you're kind of and if they're not getting it, you're saying, "Wow, it looks like she's really annoyed." Man, I wonder that, and I wonder why he's holding that pencil in his hand. I wonder what he could be doing with that pencil, because he looks like he's kind of happy about it. But why would he be holding a pencil and be smiling, and then she looks annoyed? It's kind of weird. I don't really get it. So just playing dumb a lot. Has this ever happened in your? Do you have any brothers? Do they ever bug you? And a lot of times these kids, because they don't like gray, they don't like bad stuff. No, nothing's like that's ever happened. No, I've never did it. I've never. You're like, wow, that's weird. I have 3 older brothers, and man, they used to bug me, and I'll tell stories, that kind of thing.
I love it. I love it. That's so helpful. And I appreciate you sharing all of that. I love watching and understanding the way that you know and can get into kids' brains and how they process and how they think about social skills. It's so
Sure.
amazing.
I have one more thing. I use a lot of wordless books. And what I like about this is it tells a whole story, but you're not necessarily seeing anything. In this story, for example, the boy has a frog, but then he gets a baby frog. So the big frog obviously is not happy about that. So you can see just a lot of emotion, right? And one page I like with that is they go off for an adventure. And then if you see what the big frog is doing, that little kicking him off. So, and a kid might say like, well, that's stupid. It's a book with no words. Yeah, but let's figure out the story, and the emotions are really important because we got to know what's going on, what the drama is and that sort of thing. So
I love it.
yeah. Yeah, and you're just reacting to what's happening during the day. If they had a bad day at school, well, let's talk about that. Man, I wonder what was going on with that. I wonder, it's not like you have to invent things.
Right. Right. So many things. And often they miss so many of those cues that you and I pick up on and helping them
Right,
see the cues. And it's like, your friend pushed you. Okay. Well, why'd your friend push you? Oh, you stepped on his foot. Oh, well, how did that make him feel when you stepped on his
right.
foot? And putting those pieces together to help them make connections that hopefully carry over into the next time they're in that
Right,
situation.
right. And with that story, Jessica, I might have draw like little stick figures, and if he's pushing the kid, and then I'll put maybe a mad face, and then on the other kid, I have a mad face, and then I'll be like, I wonder how we make that kid have a happy face. What do we need to do to change the way that boy's feeling? So then we'll redraw it, and maybe the first boy will say like, I'm sorry, and then maybe we'll change the expression on that other boy's face, like, okay, it's okay, because they really don't. What's missing is the fact that they don't realize that when they trip over the obvious, don't make these connections, that other kids don't really want to be with them. And so
Right.
we have to spell it out, just like we're teaching math. We're spelling this stuff out over and over again. So
Mhm.
it's kind of fun that way. but you're using obvious things, natural things, naturally occurring things.
Love it. And it's so true. Stick figures have been so helpful. I first saw those, Alicia did those. And I remember being like, oh, it doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be super high tech things. If I can take what they're telling me about their day and put it into a little comic of stick figures and have
Right.
the occurrences that are happening and then them dialogue it. Actually, there was a student last year I worked with who we were talking about a situation and he drew me a comic of his day.
Very
And
cool.
he was struggling with social skills, but he could analyze it. And once he wrote it down, he felt better. You could see. And it was so awesome to be like, this is what I was going to teach you. And here you are
That's
already
so
doing it.
cool. When kids draw, it helps them kind of get their
Yeah.
thoughts together too. It really helps with that expressive language. One thing I've
Yes.
noticed though is kids have to be able to draw those basic emotions: happy, sad, mad. So I'll ask them sometimes, what does happy look like? And I'm just looking for basic, and I had a kid one time who thought that her teacher was always mad at her. And then I asked her to draw emotions and she did like emojis. So like weird, and I said like, oh, how do you show me that picture or whatever, what does that look like? And what we figured out was that the teacher wasn't mad, but she just kind of had a neutral face on. And I had to teach her that if she looked like that all the time, we think she's weird, because we don't really show so much emotion. And so it's really interesting. So I'm not a big fan of emojis because they're weird. They're kind of silly. Can't replicate those.